Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we are with another episode of Consciousness Rising with your host Antonella Bargione, and today we have here the pleasure to have Penny Crockart with us. So,
hi Antonella, it's very good to be here.
Thank you. Let me introduce you, Penny, for those who don't know her yet. So, Penny Crockart is a holistic body worker who started her journey into complementary health about 25 years ago. She started her training with kinesiology, specifically with Touch for Health and Reiki. Then she discovered the Bowen technique, which through the teaching of John Raddock became VHT, which means Vibromuscular Harmonization Technique. She traveled to Texas in the United States to complete her Equine Touch course and to Prague to do the VHT course. Her lifelong involvement with horses and their love for them makes her a sought-after horse healer through the Equine Touch, and this is really a passion, really a call.
Yes.
8 years ago, she finally accepted having an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. She joined the AA and started her journey to recovery. In 2016, some of her friends started the First Step Rehabilitation Center, which is an outpatient rehabilitation center. And she's been involved since its inception, offering her work as a volunteer. And so this is Penny in a nutshell, and now we're going to find much more. Thank you, Penny, for being with us in this episode and in this conversation. And
thank you for asking me.
Yeah, so let's start from, well, I love horses. Even if I don't have experiences with horses, I really do love them. And also, we have a company where we do leadership coaching and team building through art, humanity, but most of all horses. So tell me about this love for horses.
Well, I'm a second generation equestrian. My mom taught riding. My gran also rode. My mom, Nan Shepherd, probably taught most of the people in Zimbabwe to ride at some stage. She unfortunately passed away in 2014. 15 actually, 2015. My daughter rides, so we're a whole family. It's just sort of gone down through the family. I don't remember learning to ride, and I don't remember a time when horses weren't in my life. And they've always been there, especially they've got me through some very tough periods of my life. You know, they're incredibly spiritual animals, and you can't just put them in a box or put them behind a door. You've got to get up, you've got to look after them. You've got to, so to get me through my troubles, it's helped me an awful lot. I also worked with the Special Olympic children and took them to the Special Olympics in Atlanta in 1995. And we came back with 3 gold, 3 bronze, and 3 silver for Zim. So I worked with the children who are challenged, and the horses make amazing differences to them, especially so some children.
Give me an example.
Yes.
Give me an example.
Okay, I taught a lot of children who had cerebral palsy, and one of them, the therapist person said to them, "Mom, what have you been doing?" Because the big oblique muscles, which are involved in that, had developed through the movement of the horse. And a friend of mine many years ago had polio, and she had a brace on her arm that had an elastic around her neck, and just the movement of the horse's neck developed a muscle they didn't think she had in her arm. So it's a fantastic sport.
Okay. So, and then when you do Equine Touch, so then how does it work?
It works, it's a non-invasive, very gentle procedure that I do on horses. Is a set procedure. Then I do areas of concern. You're basically working with the fascia and muscle, and we know that muscle stores memory as well. So by addressing the whole body, and it's like an onion peel, because the body will, whenever it can't, it's designed to operate with maximum result and minimum effort. So the minute something doesn't work properly, something else compensates. So you go along till eventually you find what I call the bully in the playground. And that's been the issue.
Okay.
So, and you see the horses, it's very visual on them. They lick and they chew. When you've done a movement, you step back, and 9 times out of 10, they'll put my head on my chest. They say, thank you. And they go all unfocused in their eyes, like they're watching their own movie. And then they'll take a big breath and they chew, and they find it quite relaxing.
Oh my gosh, I've got goosebumps. I mean, I can see it. I can completely see it. So what do you do? Just like small movement? What do you do?
Yeah, it's basically one movement, which was obviously Tom Bowen, who was a wonderful man. And he worked from a wheelchair because he'd lost the use of his legs from diabetes. And then Jock took it onto the horses. Funnily enough, he wasn't a horseman at all. He doesn't, but he had an incredible connection with them. I used to worry about him getting kicked, but somehow he didn't. He had an incredible connection with them. Then he married his wife, Ivana, who is a vet. And so she brought in, our first drawings in the book were like stick drawings. And now they're these fabulous, proper veterinary stuff in the modules and that sort of thing now. So it's really evolved, and it's an ongoing evolving thing. Like when I'm in Africa and I'm sort of not in touch with all the other people, I find moves on my own, and then I send them to Ivana, who's the head in New Zealand, and she fits them into the schedule, which is fantastic.
Okay. Well, and so people, they just call you and they say, I've got a problem. Give me some of the problems with the horses generally that you take care of.
A sore back, a bad-tempered horse, because it works on the emotional, the physical, and the lymphatic drainage system. Mm-hmm. So sometimes with horses that have been handled badly, it can really help them to recover, because you're working at cellular level as well as, and I'm not one to force myself. If the horse tells me, get out, I certainly listen to him. I always make sure that they're with me in the session, not just, I don't go in, I don't profess to be a healer, I profess to be a facilitator. The body has its own wisdom. So I merely provide it with the tools it needs to fix itself. It basically puts the body into what they call homeostasis, where the body can fix itself.
Right.
So the basic balance will put the body into homeostasis.
Yeah, it's the same that I do with Reiki and other techniques too. It's the same principle. It's the same principle.
And humans, I have a lot of humans who come, realignment, being crooked, that sort of thing. Sometimes it's physiological, sometimes it's muscular that's caused the crookedness.
Yes.
And I'm not one to say, oh, you're crooked, put things in your shoes. I will send them to the prosthetics people who will make, they actually measure, and physically I can say it would appear that, because if you're crooked in the pelvis, the rest of your body's crooked.
Okay.
So it, again, like an onion peel, it works on emotional, physical, lymphatic drainage system. And the people often go away with a wonderful sense of well-being, which is awesome. And I've had lots of reports that they sleep very well.
I think I'm going to book a session with you, because I've got my cervical at the moment. It's just giving me trouble.
Yeah. And I'm sure and a lot of other people on this forum will know that for every muscular ache or pain, there can be an underlying emotional reason. So that, if you have a bad back, you're not a very nice person, because constant pain is debilitating. So there can be an emotional reason, and like physically if you're physically sick, you can be emotionally sick, and vice versa. If you have emotional issues that you're not really aware of, they manifest physically.
Yeah, it's always the two faces of a coin.
And if you put it very simply, it basically realigns the muscle structure of the body and says, get back in your box and do your job properly.
And this one is giving me now a question though. So my experience sometimes with people who do like chiropractors or body work mostly, so that their entry point is the body. But sometimes I found out that if they don't change or they don't resolve or let go of that trapped emotion or whatever underlying cause, it's like the change doesn't last too long. Would you agree on that or not? Or is not your experience?
Yes. For me, I found that to be very, very true. And the only thing that will absolutely negate VHT is massage. So it works very well with chiropractor, because sometimes if the muscle's in spasm, you'll need the manipulation to relax the muscle, and sometimes vice versa, you need to relax the muscle before manipulation. So they work very well together.
Right. Okay. Okay. So,
but again, as you know, it's holistic. It's mind, body, spirit for the best type of healing, I think.
Yes, and each one of us really, a point of enter is or the mind or the body or the spirit, but they all work with each other. That's why it's holistic healing. There is no separation, which is what we would really like to bring even the allopathic medicine to understand. That we are not separate, we work together. We can work together, and if we do, we can actually enhance the results. And results.
Many years ago, it used to be called alternative medicine, and I much prefer the complementary aspect when you say we're complementary health practitioners, because we're complementary to, not alternate to.
Alternative, it's kind of got another separation connotation, while it's like working together. And we are going towards an age where we're going to work together. From next year on, it's all already starting through this COVID and everything. People, the box, we're all in our boxes, and now there's no boxes anymore. There's no boxes anymore. So we are all trying to find, and it's not doing the work with our mind, trying to find solution at any cost. It's more about stopping and receiving new information at the moment.
Correct.
And therefore, if we start to work together, like for example, this interview with Tanya, we wanted to do it for a long time on ourselves, and then we never did it. And then we said, shall we do it together? And then it came.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's really time to start to join forces and work together, and that's it's gonna be faster.
My journey, when I discovered that I had a really bad, unhealthy relationship with alcohol, my sort of family said to me, well, it's it's us or alcohol. So I said, okay, and that rebel came out in me and sort of said, fine, I'll do 30 days and 30 meetings and 90 days, 90 meetings.
Okay.
And we'll see, I was a real little rebel. And then off I went to the first meeting, and then I started to listen. They ask you to listen to the similarities, not the differences. I remember walking in there and going, whoa, I'm not this bad. And then I thought, but for the grace of a God, I could be. And started to listen, and it started to make sense. And funnily enough, with all the courses I've done in complementary health, the ethics and the do no harm, all of that, the Reiki writings, all linked in. It's similar thinking. So it was very easy to get involved in it.
Yeah.
And friends of mine then started the first step, aptly named, because the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
Yes, it's true. Absolutely true. How does it work with AA? Before we go to the first step, because maybe not everybody knows about AA. We all know that AA is there, but I'm sure that there are people so scared only to, because, I mean, when we're talking alcoholism, there is lots of shame for any addiction, for any addictions. Yes, there is lots of shame, guilt, self-loathing. So there's so many not life-affirming emotions connected to it, to any addiction. And so just to explain maybe to people maybe who are thinking about, but they are too scared, or they don't have the courage to take that first step. So how does, how do the meeting work? I mean,
okay, there's meetings, lots of different meetings around Harare for NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, which is for the family and friends of addicts, because they also work a program. Overeaters Anonymous, all of that. There's lots and lots of different meetings, and I think you can find out where most of them are through in DAP. I think there's contact numbers and stuff like that, and you can just walk into a meeting. Anybody, they normally run 5:30 to 6:30 during the week. I know that NA is a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm not sure, but we can find out for you if people need to know, you know.
They can find on the EP magazine. It's a monthly
Probably,
magazine
yes.
in Harare.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can go into a meeting, and there is a format to the meeting. I know everyone kind of thinks it's some kind of sect, but it's not. You sit there and they explain the traditions and the reason that it exists. And then I can tell you something, Antonella, for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. I've always felt like an outsider. And sitting there listening and thinking, how do you people know my story? Hearing people tell the same story of feeling not good enough, of feeling hopeless, of this. And, you know, if you're not an addict, don't ever try and understand the mind of an addict, because you just won't. It's a horrible disease.
So what are the characteristics of a person with addiction?
I think, Antonella, when it starts to affect your life, when it starts to become an obsession, when you can't live without it, then you need to look at it and see if it is affecting your everyday life in general. Yeah, like people who you have to go to work with the hangover. I do that a lot.
Yeah.
And when it overflows into your life, and generally one addict will affect a minimum of 17 people. That's their friends and their family and everybody who tries to help them, all of that sort of thing.
And that's quite, that's a lot of people. That's really a lot of people. And then at the AA, you have a sponsor, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you go there and you listen and you attend meetings. I think I was there for about 5 weeks before I even opened my mouth. If you want to talk, you can. If you don't want to talk, you don't. And then you will seek a sponsor, obviously through someone that you admire or someone who you feel speaks the same language as you. Then you can always approach them to be your sponsor. And that's a cool thing, because like if I sponsor someone, they can phone me anytime, day or night. I just say, don't phone me when you're drunk. Phone me before you start.
Yes. And so, and then after that, in 4 years ago, which was 2016.
2016.
Some friend of yours started the first step, which is an outpatient rehabilitation center.
Correct.
It's here in Harare, or where? Where is it?
Yes, it is.
Where is it?
It's in Harare in Greendale, yeah.
Oh, okay. So how does that, because you told me that it's a holistic center. So how do you work there? I mean,
okay, it's in Zimbabwe and in fact many places, but less in Europe. But in Zimbabwe, addiction is considered to be taboo. Nobody talks about it. It's shameful, as you said earlier, and you don't want anyone to know. Hence, a lot of people send their family and friends to rehab in South Africa and say, oh, they're on a 3-month course.
Yes,
you know. So here, to have an inpatient, the logistics are very difficult because you've got to have doctors and nurses, and so it's like an outpatient center, so that the clients will come in the mornings, in the afternoon, Monday to Thursday, from 12:30 to 4, and then on a Friday in the mornings from 9 till 12. So it is 12-step, and the 12 steps are just, I remember thinking, oh my God, back to school. And I didn't like school very much. But it's actually one of the most amazing journeys into self-knowledge, into learning about yourself, how we do things. We very much, there's a lovely man, Don Ruiz, who says that we are domesticated. We become domesticated. And just teaching us, what we work a lot on is a holistic thing. So the 12 steps is the basis, but we do yoga, we have meditation, we have life coaches in, so that we give them as many aspects as we can, because it involves for me, the most important thing is change of behavior. Because we have a saying that if you sit in a barber shop long enough, you're going to have a haircut. So, it's about recognizing bad behavior patterns, learning how to change them, and learning that your belief systems can change.
It does, and it can change really like that. Sometimes once we see it can, in a blink of an eye.
And it's an incredible journey. It's hard work. It's painful. It's can be gut-wrenching at times, but worth it because it changes your life. I've been in lockdown on my own, sort of seen maybe very few people, but when you learn to like yourself, which is one of the hardest things I think any of us can do, you're okay. It never worried me to be alone. And it's learning a way of living life on life's terms, not trying to make life fit in with us.
Yes, because then there is a fight, and then we don't know how to cope with the fight, and then we need to numb the pain, which comes with that frustration.
Correct. For me, there was always a feeling of to seek oblivion, because I had this empty hole inside me. I didn't feel like I fitted in. So when I drank, it was just like to seek oblivion. And I didn't drink every day. I binged. So if I had friends on the weekend, oh my goodness, it was a glorious binge, and it's just hours. And then I'd have blackouts where I didn't remember. And I thought, no, something's got to be done with this, And the problem in Zimbabwe, when everyone says, what is an alcoholic? Well, or an addict, it's anything that affects your daily life and stuff. Plus, it's a way of life here. And everyone will say, well, I'm not really an alcoholic because I don't drink as much as Fred next door.
I'm a social drinker.
And that's kind of,
And also, Zimbabwe, being Anglophone, it's a drinking culture as well. It's really
correct.
I make you laugh. I come from Italy, and I went home for Christmas. On New Year's Eve, on our table, dinner table, very beautiful. We are a food culture. On our beautiful laid out table and so on, we had 2 bottles of champagne and 2 of red wine for 14 people. In Zimbabwe, that would have been for 2 people or 3 people. And everybody was happy.
1 person.
Yeah. And everybody was happy. So it's just a culture can completely, I mean, you think it's normal, but then is up to a certain point. It's not so normal.
Correct. And it is normal because everybody does it.
Yes.
I can only speak on my experience and my, everybody's recovery. Yes, you do the 12 steps, and yes, but it's your own journey, and every journey is different. So at the first step, we would say to someone, come in for an assessment, which is free, okay? Mm-hmm. And then every person's recovery program is designed specifically for them. Yeah. Because we're all different.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And we have 2 resident counselors at the center. And if we need to, we're working with the medical professionals, and we refer to psychologists. Yeah. We're not going to overstep the mark on what we're capable of doing.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating journey, and it was incredible when I stopped drinking, how people around me changed just because I could be me and not, I was terrified because you think you've got to live up to something or someone. So it's a fascinating journey of self-discovery.
Yeah, and also into self-worth.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Yes, beautiful. And going back to all the different type of addictions, there you say the alcohol, okay, but then also eating disorders, depression, drugs, porn. Porn is a huge one, I think, for teenagers at the moment, and maybe not only teenagers, but for teenagers is really a big risk, because it's for free. You find it freely on the internet, and in the 70s in Italy, there were lots of private TV stations coming on the market, and there was a loophole in the law. So for a few years, every odd day at 11:30 at night, there was a porn movie on TV. And the damage those porn movies have done to my generation was coming into we were coming into our sexuality because we were, 15 or so. It's been enormous. It's really been enormous, because you start to think that sexuality is that way, while that is really the way it shouldn't be.
No, for sure.
Because
there are apps you can download from the internet to secure the sites for your children on you can put it on their computers, on their phones, that sort of one. One that I have heard of is called Net, as in the internet, Nanny, as in someone who looks after children. So it's called Net Nanny. But I'm sure there's many more on the internet. But just, like for me, I never thought about it because it's not something that I'm into. I wouldn't go and actively seek porn. So I don't think my kids are going to do it. But jeepers, they get into my machine. Little kids get in quicker. It's their way of doing things. So I would tell most parents, be very, very, very careful and make sure that you have some sort of lock or guard on your kids' computers and phones.
Yes, and if you also add to that screen time, which is another addiction, especially in this period. I mean, with COVID, it's been even worse with the lockdown. It's really dangerous because you lose the contact, the physical contact. I mean, you just get into your mind, and your heart keeps closing without knowing. So you can't really reach people on an intimate level because you can't reach yourself anymore. Everything.
No, and if you don't like someone, you can just delete them.
Yes. I mean, it's simple, just with a click. Not even with a touch screen. Yeah. So it's we are really heading for interesting times. Where
very much so. And you know, we have a saying very often. Some of us think that the opposite or the cure is not that there's a cure, because if you're that way inclined, it will always be there. But you can live in recovery. The opposite of addiction is connection.
I believe totally.
Because we become addictive behavior because we don't feel like we fit in. We don't have a place in this world. So we just become we look for other things. And, you know, this is just my own interpretation of it, Antonella. You know, everybody's journey is their own. And the only way I can be honest is to talk where I come from and my experience in it.
So what was one of your keys, or one of the things when you start to lose it again? Because, I mean, life is never a flat line. I mean, it's got ups and downs. So what is something that really helps you to...
These things that we call triggers that will trigger you, like maybe a very emotional thing or something like that will trigger you. You'll just think, I'll use. And it's about being aware of it and choosing not to.
Yes, but how do you
choosing?
Okay, so one is by choice. Do you replace? Is the choice kind of a replacement, or it's about telling yourself, no, you are actually okay. You don't need to.
That's, you know, as I said, you learn your own way of dealing with it, but you do get triggers. Like if I was angry, in fact, any excuse, Antonella, I would drink. I drank when I was happy. I drank when I was sad. I drank because I was having fun. Whatever the reason, it was just an excuse. And it's realizing what makes you do that. Like for me, I didn't want to feel.
Yes.
So I can tell you all the emotions, but don't ask me what they feel like. I think I know, but I don't.
All right. Okay.
So it's seeking oblivion.
Yes. So, and today, you were mentioning that there is something that you do that helps you to really come out quickly.
So what we call an attitude of gratitude. I've learned to feel gratitude, not just say it. You know, as a kid, my mom used to say, count your blessings. And I'd be going, yeah, I've got a roof over my head. So what, doesn't everyone? You know, and you kind of take it for granted because it's just there. And realize that sometimes it's not always there. And being incredibly grateful for the people around me. There are some fantastic people in Zim who, you know, in the complementary health field, who can assist people and really get people on the right road to recovery or healing from all their things. And it's just learning how grateful I am. I think my guardian angel must have worked trebly hard because I did some crazy things. And I'm grateful that I'm alive, and all I can do is live my life the best way that I can.
Yeah, I've got a jar. It's a big a jar, and I call it the gratitude jar. So I've got little pieces of paper, and then I start to write. And this is also a tip for our listeners if they like it. So instead of just writing, I'm grateful because I have a roof over my head, you say, today I'm really grateful to have a roof over my head because that gives me the feeling of a cozy home where I can go and relax and be with my beloved husband or whatever it is, a dog or a son or a daughter. So you really make it really as a phrase in a way that you can really feel it within. Because whenever we want to shift something, one of the secrets is to feel it. And once we feel it within, then it's like an energy movement. There is a movement within that can help to shift. That can help to shift. And also it's nice.
Also
It's also nice to have a jar because whenever there are those days where you can't be grateful for anything, then you put your arms there and you pull a few of those. Oh, let me read. Okay. So there is something that I can still see I'm grateful for. And so,
absolutely. And I think, Antonella, I always, I never had any boundaries.
That's a big one.
You when to say no, it's okay to say no. It's okay if it's not healthy for you to move out. It's a massive learning thing, and always thinking I had to do things for other people and not for me, because that's selfish. You know, when you say, well, learn to love yourself. I remember in school people saying, oh, she just loves herself. You know, but it's a really important thing to honor yourself, to honor the gifts you have, and use them to the best of your ability. And it's okay to not be okay.
True. Absolutely true. That's the first step to recognize, to move, to move on, to change. Well, so Penny, thank you very much for your courage. I mean,
you're very welcome.
To tell your story. I found out that when we tell our stories, some people can be touched, and it could be even maybe just one word or a phrase that can make them be inspired and change and transform.
And it's also to know that you're not alone. There's always someone there. We find it very hard to ask for help, you know. I'm tough, I'll manage. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'll fix it, I'll be okay. Nobody's that strong.
Thank you very much. What can I say?
You're welcome, Antonella. Thank you so much.
Bye.
It's wonderful chatting to you.
Yes, bye.